Welcome, everybody, for another episode of Soul Nectar show that talks about all things essence and tells the stories of amazing people and their incredible journeys to help inspire us to take the journey ourselves, to, not be so afraid of crossing that threshold into who we really are underneath all this stuff that's been going on since we showed up on the planet, and figuring out who we really are underneath all that. And I'm your host, Kerri Hummingbird. I love this work. I love the work that I get to do. I love helping people on their journey of transformation. And I love interacting with other people who have had incredible journeys. And I love stories. I love to hear the story. And I love to find out, little tips and things to help make life easier. So if you like that too, stick with us. Today, we're going to have a really interesting conversation. We're here with Kasey and Brad Wallis, who are renowned speakers, global workshop leaders, and facilitators of consciousness and why we are here. And so Brad and Kasey have been interviewed on over 400 media outlets. They've been featured guests on television, such as CNN, Fox News, NBC, and ABC, as well as on radio, telesummits, podcasts, and as key speakers at consciousness expos. So Brad had a near-death experience, and we're going to hear a little bit about that. And they've been conduits ever since then for an advanced intelligence named Julius, who I'm told we're going to visit with today. I'm super excited about this. He's a higher light teaching group who offers messages of empowerment and enlightenment for humanity. For over 10 years, the Wallaces have been inviting people worldwide to embrace their true limitlessness. And originally, Kasey was trained as a hairdresser for 35 years, and Brad was drafted to play for a professional baseball team. So you can see, how interesting this journey is when you start coming into spirituality. Like, did you ever think you were going to be doing this? No, but they came together because of a car accident in 2007. So today, they live completely different lives than what they probably thought they were going to be doing with their lives. And it's really fascinating, and it's amazing. And they lead workshops, and they do all kinds of really cool stuff, retreats and online courses and personal readings. And they help people to eliminate the judgment, resistance, and lack in their lives. So we're really excited to have you guys with us today. And, of course, your website's available in the show notes. And I'm just so excited. So welcome. Thanks for being here with me.
Thanks for having us, Kerri. It's just wonderful to be back with you. We had our first little virtual coffee chat, and we've been so anxious to get back in your space and in your energy space, and this time with your audience. So it's wonderful to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, really excited to have you guys here. So, as we talk, I always talk with everybody beforehand. You guys know I do that. Because I want to be sure, and I trust my intuition, and I like to double check it, because I'm one of those like to double check. So anyway, these guys are pretty amazing. We're going to have an amazing show today. So one of the things that I found really interesting when I talked to you guys when we first talked was, just about how you got started in this kind of work, because this is something really different. Spiritual channeling is a thing, that's really different and maybe misunderstood in a lot of ways by our existing cultural programming. Let's call it that. So how did that manifest for the two of you? As you're coming into this work, how is that part of your journey? And any tips you can give about that, because our audience includes a lot of light workers. So
yeah. What I can say for my own self, Kerri, is as a child, there were lots of intuitive gifts that I had, and I played around with those a little bit. Luckily, I was raised in a family that didn't tell me those things were wrong, and so they kind of allowed those things, but I didn't ever really think that was a destiny for me in some way, or somehow that was really going to be presented to the world in any way.
That you could make a living out of it.
I didn't think of it that way. You think to yourself, what are you going to do when you grow up? I'm going to cut everybody's hair, and I'm going to be Vidal Sassoon, and those types of things. And as the gifts grow, as they grow and they grow and they start to really affect aspects of your life. And I say that because, for somebody who channels, or somebody who's an intuit, or somebody who's a medium or something, you can sometimes be in conversation with somebody and whoa, you're getting all these messages, and somebody and you're like, God, do I say something? Do I not say something? Like you're the only one sitting there in the room with this internal conflict going on, and everybody else is just toasting drinks and they're like, what is the problem with that person over there? And and of course, everyone's going to think you're nuts. I mean, that's what we think, that's our own judgment and things like that. So we kind of stifle it. We kind of, let's just get it. Let's just stick it back in the closet, close the closet door and kind of stay away from it.
Well, even when we first started, Kerri, a little over 10 years ago, right out of the gate, we were told by an agent, oh, channeling, absolutely not. You cannot even mention that word. It's forbidden. No, you'll never get anywhere if you say that you channel. And I finally just drew the line with the agent and I says, well, either you're going to be unemployed or you're not going to represent, you're just basically not going to represent us because this is what we do.
Yeah.
And so if you can't do what we're paying you to do, then we will go elsewhere. And so it was a little bit of a struggle just because, even that short of a time period. And now it's like everybody's a channel.
Yeah,
so many, right? It opens way up.
But I had to teach myself too, Kerri, like for your listeners, everybody's got, these superpowers. And I think a lot of people have a pretty good idea of what they are, but they're a little afraid to present them. They kind of judge them. Only a certain amount of people kind of know what those are. And the criticism that is possible to receive is just what scares the hell out of us, isn't it? I mean, it stinks. We have to conjure our bravery. In our case was really nice because we have each other, to support each other. Anytime he falls in doubt or I fall in doubt, we kind of rattle each other or support each other. I know in our case, Brad actually absolutely forbid me from seeing some of the emails that were coming in because we would get emails from different religious groups telling me that I was the devil and I was channeling the devil and, we were going to be punished for what we were doing and things like that. And of course, if I saw something like that, which I did occasionally, I would just run bawling and, I'm not going to do this. And this is terrible.
You can't put me out in front of an audience.
Right.
I remember one time we were going in front of an audience and it was a local crowd. It was a local event that we'd put on. And she was back in the back corner behind the stage, just absolutely bawling her eyes out because somebody had said something. And I literally had to just pick her up and drag her out on the stage. And she's kicking me and hitting me and telling me she's not going to do it, not going to do it. And her transformation right there on the stage was unbelievable. And the fact that during that moment, Julius actually picked out the people in the audience that actually were saying things, and they publicly apologized during that event to her for making her feel the way she felt. And it was quite a moving moment. And I finally just said to her, I'm not going to let what other people say affect us from here on out. It's not worth it. We're in this for the long haul, or I'm done. I'm not going to do this anymore. And so from then on, it has just been basically seamless.
Yeah. Once you follow that internal compass, as you know, it works. It works. We have to get our human altered egos out of the way because the altered ego will try to talk us out of everything magnificent. It just does.
That is such a good statement.
That's its job,
Yeah.
And for the listeners and for your viewers, how do you do this? How are you brave enough to do it? You've got to find techniques, which Julius provided for us, which we provide for our students, to tune out that altered ego. And because the soul is the ultimate cheerleader, right? I mean, that's that's the, peeling the shirt off with the big S underneath it, or coming out of the phone booth or whatever it is. But it takes a little maturity, timing, support, all of those things that everybody tells you that you have to do for anything in your life, any type of career, any type of choices, right?
I was going to say the other thing that you have to recognize, especially for your for anyone, if you're practitioners, you say you have a lot of practitioners that follow this program. It's not easy, folks. Let's say that right out of the gate, okay? It's not easy. And don't think that there's anybody sitting there with a plan or a playbook who's going to share you the plays to play this game. And that's, ironically, I know this sounds completely out of whack, but that's the way it should be, because none of us do the same thing that anybody else does. And so in order to be authentic and in order to be your authentic self, you need to find out what it is that you do, and then those people will be attracted to you. And don't copy what somebody else does. Take what they do and expand on it and make it greater and make it better, because each of us is our own being, having our own experience, and we should all just be busting at the seams with enthusiasm about this business.
I love it. I got to say, I'm going to give that a sound yes, because even when I went to school, my first school with the Four Winds for shamanic energy practitioner training, they said, listen, we're giving you a framework, and then you're going to find your own medicine in that framework as you practice, as you walk every step along the way. You're going to find your medicine and how you show up. It's going to come to you, and it's not going to be anything like what we started with. You're going to use pieces of it, but you're going to, and that is so true. Like, I've followed my heart to so many teachings and indigenous tribes and studied their medicine, and said, so grateful. Yes. Thank you for letting me practice this. And it's all woven together. Like, it feels like inside me, like this massive tapestry that just keeps getting woven together. And I love it. But that's me. I can't, nobody else can be Kerri Hummingbird. There's only one.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's only one of each of you out there in the audience listening. Like, there's only one of you. And that's your job, is to find out what you are.
Yeah.
And how you serve. And I love that.
And don't be afraid of it. We always tell everybody, one of the worst things that you can say to yourself is, I wish I was like so-and-so, or I want to do it like so-and-so. Don't do that to yourself. Mm-hmm. What you can say is, I'm inspired by the work of this person, and I can't wait to unleash my extraordinary and my superpowers.
That is so true.
That shift of dialogue.
That's a total change of energy.
Totally. It feels good. It's like, I'm so inspired by this, and I want to find out, because I used to do that. I will just confess. I had a teacher who I still love, but I was so inspired by everything she was doing, and I kept comparing myself to her for years. And it was this endless cycle of self-torment, because I'm not meant to be that. That's not who I am.
Right.
A piece of that's true. Like, it resonates, right? I needed that piece, but then it was a piece of a larger puzzle.
Right. And so that's probably the biggest point of advice or loving, nurturing dialogue that we can give to everybody, is be inspired by everybody else, but be intent on unleashing your authenticity. And that shifts everything for everybody. It also helps to completely alleviate the competitive energy between people. And if we're doing spirituality and expansiveness and extraordinary and love and allowing and compassion, we're not supposed to be competitive. We're not supposed to be in fear. We're not supposed to be in that kind of energy of resistance. And so it's important for all of us to nurture, to show everybody that's what we do with this, whatever you want to call it, spirituality, metaphysical energies and teaching, whatever you want to talk about. But it's really the high consciousness thought energies that we all do. We really need to demonstrate that with each other.
Yeah, Brad, like looked like you were saying yes inside. You had like you wanted to say something. Did you?
I was going to expound even greater than that on that, but I know you've got another question. So,
Oh. I saw you on the edge of your seat, like, I got more to say about that.
It's all right.
Let's bring it back to the challenge, right? I mean, now I had this retreat I was just on, and on the retreat, I had this another awakening, because they just keep happening. I had another awakening, and I was like, oh. It was this retreat where we all pray in front of each other, like we just pray, and we witness each other's prayers. And when it was my turn, I walked up there, and it's the way I pray, and I was like, Great Spirit, whew, I know who I am in truth. I know what I am in truth, and I know how I serve in truth. I know it. And I know I'm a way shower. So why is it so hard to show the way? So why do I keep forgetting? Why do I remember so well right now that everybody deserves love? Like even the people in my life, my closest people, my family is so hard sometimes. How can I remember that? And it's really that place of like, well, we got to show the way with the people in our lives where it's gritty. Mm-hmm. But that is actually the work, right? Because I've done a lot of nitty gritty work. Let me tell you, I've done some gritty stuff on the spiritual path, and it's uncomfortable. Let's talk a little bit about that a little bit. Because this brings in like your background, Brad, too. Like where, you're like, listen, I know all this. I've got a history. I know this. And yet I know this too.
There's I'm trying to, I want to give you an answer that, would be profound, but maybe I can't do that because my brain can't process it fast enough. With everything that I grew up with and everything that I had been taught from a young child that I remember up until my fourth near-death experience, the car accident, we'll just leave it at that. I was the one who was always in the classroom that had the questions that nobody else could answer. And I was the one that drove the instructors crazy. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. The one that has to like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah. If it says this and it says this, well, then what about this and what about this? Oh, we don't need to know about those things. We'll find out about those things later on in life. You are going to give me those. I drove everybody crazy. I drove my mom and dad crazy. And because of a religious background and upbringing, it was all good. There was a period of time in my life where I actually looked at that from an extremely negative aspect. And I have learned to love that experience, to look at it from a totally different experience, because I wouldn't be as passionate about what I do today if I wouldn't have had that experience to fall back on and to constantly remind me of how far I have come and how many other people there are out in the world, around the world, that are in the same situation, and they're all looking and they're all asking and they're all wanting and they're feeling, and they don't know where to go, and they don't know what to do, and they don't know who to go talk to. And so they stifle themselves because they believe what everybody tells them is, you're not supposed to think that way. You're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do that. Oh, we don't do that. Well, the world's changing, folks, and it's changing faster. This wonderful internet that we're on right now is affording us as workers to deliver messages around this world to people we don't even know. and how it's going to affect them, not just at the time of the broadcast, but years down the road, because they're going to be able to go back and archive this and watch it. And the effect that it's going to have on people's lives and the changes that are going to be brought about because of it are so far reaching. It's amazing at how fast everything's going to change.
Yeah, and it helps provide a support system that we didn't have. We didn't have that technology. You didn't have that technology when we were little. It was, your community was pretty tight. You know, your world was pretty tight, especially depending on how
you grew up,
how restrictive and how strict a religion is, or a community is, or authorities are, you know, in your life. And so it's interesting to be able to, like you said, go beyond the parameters of that and be able to get support systems virtually across the world. You know, students that we have students all around the world. And just like you were saying, Kerri, the common thread, one of the biggest common threads for people on a conscious journey is when they start waking up and they're afraid of disclosing that to everybody else in their life that think this other way, and they don't have anybody to talk to. So they'll hide from it, or they're ashamed of it. They're a little afraid of it, and they don't have a support system. It can cause people to retreat and not do it and just go back to the old ways, you know, least point of resistance. You know, I don't want to lose my mother. I don't want to lose my father over this. I don't want to be punished, because you'll be punished through isolation. And so then they'll leave this marginal life of shame and kind of unworthiness, or what's wrong with me, or like I said, worse than that, the kind of the secret stuff. Then they get a little angry. And then they kind of going to stick it in everybody's face, right?
You live in fear.
And reap the punishments, you know, of that. And you got to kind of find your balance and be like, okay, sorry, I kind of lashed out in my, you know, unleashing my own self. And then you find your group. There's a lot of processes that we go through.
And there's also, like, for me anyway, I went through an extra big dose of, like, feeling like I was crazy, you know, because I had all the labels on me, you know? Yeah. And so when my mom was telling me I was crazy because I was thinking this other way and I was doing all this stuff, she's like, I don't even know who you are. Like, what are you doing? You're going to Peru? You're studying with some shaman? Like, what are you doing? What is all this? What's tobacco? What's, you know, you're crazy. And I was like, I don't feel crazy. If it's, you know what, I finally just came to, like, you know what? If it makes me happier, it's working. Right. I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, if it makes me happier and more free and invites more love into my life and more relationships with more people who treat me with love, then it's working. Right. And so let me be, you know, let me be with my process.
Right. And, but once, you know, whatever it is in your life that you feel in alignment with, you get that feeling that when authenticity starts to be your playground, it feels different, doesn't it? Everything feels different. Colors start to show up differently. Relationships start to change because they're all a reflection of your own state of joy in finding, you know, that authenticity and being okay with your authenticity. And so I've thoroughly enjoyed my other career. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Did everything with it, from Hollywood to platform work to owning salons. Really enjoyed it. Of course, but this other thing that I do is a whole nother level of authenticity. Of course, we've all been massively punished for all of these gifts in other lives that we have to kind of get over.
There is that
energetic effects of that.
There is that coming to peace with that part. Yeah. How about you, Brad?
Oh yeah, I've had a reoccurring dream for many years of somebody literally pulling me apart one piece at a time, and I feel it I'm actually there. In fact, Kasey at night, she can hear me screaming. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
know,
being punished for all of this.
And being
somewhere else.
punished for all of this. But it's all good. I'm coming to terms with
I just get the duct tape out, I put him back together, and, we're good to go.
Yeah, it's, this is a journey, and it's all happening multidimensionally all at once.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know. I feel like we could get some really good wisdom today for everybody on this topic of like this ascension process, right? Because it is kind of like it's a tearing apart, it's a coming together, it's a destruction, it's a reinvention, it's a growth, it's a love, it's a light, and it's also some darkness. And, it's like kind of a lot for people to process. Like, is this the right way? Is this right? Are we supposed to feel it? Are we supposed to, there's a lot of questions, around this ascension thing. Like, what is it and how does it work?
Right. So we support that there is a galactic teaching at the highest level of what different phases of consciousness are, no matter how you get to those phases of consciousness. There are levels or phases of consciousness that are seated in fear, and then there are levels and stages of consciousness that are seated in love. Consciousness is another great word of thought. It's the way you think, or the perception that you hold. So everything in your existence is real for you based on the way you see it, based on your perception. Quantum physics supports this. This is one thing that we do love about science, supporting spirituality. But what creates your perception for you? A lot of times people get their perception from the people around them, their influences, the way they're taught, they're supposed to think, their identities and things like that. But when you start to internalize to really discover your own self, you really discover how you see the world. That's your state of consciousness. That can be measured on a scale from 1 to 7. We call it the 7 seals, or the 7 stages of consciousness. And you work your way as a human embodiment through all the seals or stages of fear. And then you bridge yourself where you are getting rid of all judgment of all thought. And then you sit in the high stages of consciousness. Once you reach a 6th seal or 6th level of consciousness, in religion, they will call that a Christ consciousness state. You can ascend your physical body off of this realm and go on to your next experience wherever or whenever that may be. And human beings are doing that. They are on their conscious journey. Whether they realize it or not, they're doing that.
You can do it actively, and this is the time that supports the growth. So.
Right.
Are you awake or not?
Right.
That's the difference.
But you're doing it. You're doing your vantage point in some way. Once we start to decide that we're going to choose to do this, we take on quite an undertaking, because like you said, there's a lot of fear perception to get through, to master ourselves through. The great thing is that with each step along the way, you feel kind of rewarded. It's kind of nice. Like, you don't have to wait till you get clear up here for your life to change. Your life changes along the way. And that acts as our inspiration and our guidance to keep going. Some people are like, things get better, and they get better, and they get better. Yes, they get more and more expanded. They get far less resistance. But more than anything else, it starts to feel to all of us like we can actually control something in our life. Not control from a fear-based perspective, but to create it. And most people feel like their lives are out of control. They're really looking for the way to govern this creation for themselves. And you do that on your refining your conscious journey.
Yeah, well, the other aspect of that is when you get to that point in your life, you start realizing that you're in control, not somebody else, but it's actually you who gets to be the driver of the boat or the car or the driver of your life. You are the one who is in charge. And every decision that you make, everything that you try to do, everything that you want to do, everything that you try to create, everything that you want to create, that's all based upon you and not somebody else anymore. And that is the aspect or the level of consciousness that we want to get everybody to, is that knowing that they are the one who's actually in charge, not somebody else outside of you.
Right.
And I totally agree with that. That's why I started the Skills Not Pills movement. It's because, not to shame pills at all, but just to say, hey, you got a choice. Like, you get to decide. It's not the doctor doesn't know better than you. You actually have an inner voice and an inner compass that tunes into something way bigger than your body and way bigger than, anything. And you can tune into that and you can get the answer for you that is going to find your solution, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we want people to do, because on the other side of the fear, it's so much fun. Yes, there's grittiness. It is gritty. It's gritty at times. But that is necessary to grit all. It's like a loofah,
It is. It's like playing
the spirit loofah.
You're going to get sand rash between your butt, okay? But, you're going to have a really great time. You get to swim with the dolphins, right?
Yeah. When you go to the beach, you get to go in the ocean, you get to swim, but then if you sit on on the sand, you're going to get some sand everywhere. So it's a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But you just got to go swim with the dolphins. Come on now. Like, can you put up with a little bit of grit?
Right. Right.
That's what I'm telling myself anyway after this week.
Yeah.
But it is amazing because you feel so much better when you get through one of these realization moments. That's so hard for the ego to receive. It really doesn't want to receive it.
Oh, it's more than that. It will seek to destroy it. It's not that it's uncomfortable with it. Your own mind becomes the warrior against your journey. Learning the tools to really effectively and efficiently calm that without threat. Because you'll self-sabotage. Everybody starts self-sabotaging. They start doing all these things. And the altered ego lives always in the past and will keep you bound to the past. That's where it can win. And you've got to be brave enough to move into what we all call the now. They all call it the now. And we all find our own ways and our descriptions of what that is. And that's unsure territory, for humans. Not for light beings, it's not. That's where the light beings dance and live and create. But we got to get out of our human perspective. We will be in human perspective while we're in the low states of consciousness. We refer to ourselves as I and singular, and we see things outside of ourselves. As we grow in our consciousness and we return to remembering that we are light beings, we hunger for the now and the vortex and that creative space. And the joy that we find that everything that we create is a demonstration of that higher perspective and of love, and it's not singular. The altered ego loves to keep us singular, loves to judge the singular thing, loves to just derail us in all ways. And eventually we actually learn to kind of love our altered ego for the purpose that it has served for us, and in doing that, we kind of bring that altered ego along with us and help convert it into a higher space, and it lets go of its defense mechanisms finally, and everything seems to fly fairly seamlessly for all of us.
Yeah, and it's nice to hold both at the same time.
You have to.
I really love as much as I love being Kerri Hummingbird, because it's fun right now. But my guides have said, you've loved all of them. So whatever. Yeah. And, and I can hold that. And I can also hold it's just expressing as me, it's expressing as you, it's expressing as Kasey, it's expressing as Brad, it's expressing as everybody out there audience. And it's all the same thing. We are all the same thing expressing in all these different ways. And isn't that exciting that it can do that? I think that's so cool that it can do that. And it being us, that we can do that we can express as all these things is so pretty amazing, which makes it so there's these stages of the journey. At the beginning, I used to be super afraid of I need to protect myself from, these things that I don't like, that, are negative, I need to protect myself from negative energy. And a lot of light workers get caught in that space of I want to protect myself from negative energy, or I want to protect myself from channeling. That was another fear I had, because I had an experience that was a little icky. But the thing is yeah, sort of. But then when you're in the light, when you finally get to the light, you realize, oh, well, there's nothing to protect against. It's kind of all the same thing. There is nothing to protect against. You're just having an experience that some of it you don't prefer in the moment. Well, maybe not, who doesn't prefer it? Well, the ego. It's uncomfortable.
It's the shift of perspective, Master, on your conscious journey. So just the words demonstrate it beautifully. but to explain that it is an energy shift, okay? So protect is fear. Protect is fear. You're in a fear-based energy, and that is a truth. And you will always have or be or create what your energy is. That is a truth. That's the beautiful, magnificent truth of the manifestation process and all that you end up experiencing. But you get caught in it. You play this game of expanding over here, but falling back over here, expanding over here and falling back over here. But as you persist on your conscious journey and master the components of judgment of all thought, you convert yourself into this higher energy space. And once your perception is always of only love, only possibility, and only expansiveness, then you are correct. Every experience that you get to create or sit within turns out that type of result for you, because you can't get touched by this stuff down here anymore. It just doesn't match you. It doesn't match you. We have always said the answer to everything resistance in your life is to get your energy up, and you do that on a conscious journey. It feeds every answer, from your physical problems to your mental problems to your emotional problems to your relationship problems to your monetary problems. All of the problems that human beings think that they have, their answer sits up here. It does.
But
And
even
so-
as it goes up, you gotta if you're trying to go up in a hot air balloon and you got huge weights on the thing, you can't
You can't move.
go up with that stuff.
And that's judgment. So we teach you to let go of judgment, and you're right, Master. It unleashes the hot air balloon. The vantage point from up here is unbelievable. Unbelievable. You can see everything instead of right here. You can see everything from up here. You see yourself differently. You see everyone else's authentic self. So one of the things that becomes absolutely extraordinary for you is as your own vantage point of self ascends, your vantage point for all ascends as well. Even if somebody else has no idea who they really are, you know. And so it doesn't even matter how they act, you still have the broader base. It's like you have the secret. The secret is that everyone is God and that everyone is a light being. But that is not an arrogant position. That is an extraordinarily compassionate position. Because when you know that, you love all, you honor all, especially yourself, and you are well, and you are safe, and you cannot be harmed. You will never not exist. So there's nothing that can take you away or destroy you. It is freedom. Freedom from fear, which then frees you up from all resistances in your life and lack in your life. It's a wonderful, seamless transition.
God, it's beautiful. I finally got to that place where I realized, wow, this path that I walked led me to love. And I'm in love. And it feels so good. And I don't want anybody to be outside of love that wants to get there, including people that I previously would have designated as I was having conflict with.
Right.
And so now I'm in this space of I just love that this path brought me here, and that I want you to have it too if you want it.
Yeah.
If you want it. It's just an invitation.
Right.
But man, it's nice. It feels so good to really remember it. Remember what it feels like.
You can't get rid of anything you judge. You can't get rid of anything you don't like. You will never get rid of anyone you don't like.
No,
that is
they come back again and again.
Because that energy of disdain is stuck to you like owl snot, okay? So the only way to progress or push through, or we call expand in all ways, is to love everything. That is true.
Love all of it.
That is
all of it, even the gritty part.
For students, because they think, I just can't wait to be done with this earth ship. It is so hard here. I am not.
You'll never get out.
Because you won't get rid of it until you love every step of the way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and every step, I learned to love every step.
Yeah.
Because it is so much better after. I had a very intense experience this week, and right as the intensity was ending, I was like, I don't think I want to take the next step. But then I was like, wait a second. No, just give it a little time. Let the sun come in. Let just like be with that for a moment. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll go again. I'll do the next.
You cannot detach. We support what we want to tell you and your listeners, Master, for reference purposes, is that we do support that as a physical being, you came into this realm or onto this realm for which you had created with an ego. Now, we support that an ego is an installation by your own self for safety and survival purposes on the physical realm, knowing that there were some elemental issues that could harm you. You instilled an intuitive instinct, we call it the infrared or the second energy bandwidth, like animals have, that will instinctually keep you from running into fire or possibly diving into the water and not being able to catch your breath. And so we support that. An ego was a very small part of you, and it would come out appropriately so you wouldn't eat the poisonous plant and you wouldn't get gobbled up by the lion, okay? And so the ego, in what our description is a partner with you as a physical being on a physical realm. And you created it for that reason. And at the beginning, you collaborated beautifully with each other. Your ego was perfectly happy playing this tiny little role, and all of your magnificence and light was the dominant force of your experience. But as fears started to creep in, paranoia came in, competition, and this thing grew into what we refer to as the altered ego state. And this became the dominant force. So now human beings walk with this altered ego, this monstrous ego that has been unleashed and out of control, governing their experience. And therefore, and it constantly is gobbling up your remembrance. Okay?
It's very hungry.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so when you go on the conscious journey and you get it, you kind of put it back in its proper proportion to your experience here. It's like it finally goes back to being this loving creature. It's become this petulant, spoiled, angry child, but it gets to go back to being, nurtured and loved and understood. And that's a transition that starts to happen on your conscious journey as well. It is remarkable when you start to feel that in your life. And again, that's the unleashment of your superpowers. It's like, well, my superpowers can come out because my altered ego is back in the position that it's supposed to be, just right down here, so I don't, get stung by the scorpion, and die. And then that's good. And it's happy with that space. And it then actually ends up helping to contribute to the expansive conscious journey that you're on. So everybody kind of comes back to the positions for the extraordinary once you start initiating that journey for yourself. But it generally does not happen without your initiation. So early in this conversation, you said, you have to, when you awake and say, okay, I'm going on this conscious journey. I'm going to choose my thoughts. I'm going to choose my emotions, where before I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea where my thoughts were coming from. That's where the shift changes. A lot of people think that they're just automatically going to experience an enlightenment process. We're like, no, you get to do it.
Yeah, you be it. You walk it. You chop wood, carry water. Get yourself out there.
Right.
No one's going to deliver. There's no Ascension delivery service. Like, here you go, ding dong. Here's your Ascension pizza. Like, just gotta sit there and eat it. Right. No, man. Like, you got to go out and claim that. Like, climb that damn mountain. You know, like
that's great.
Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, so many people think that they're just waiting for something magical to wave and hit them, and they don't have to do any work. And we're like, no, that's not how it works, or it would have worked a long time ago.
And it's in the doing that you become it anyway. You know, only you can do it. You're the only one. Right. Nobody else can.
Right. Yeah.
And no, there aren't any like, I don't know, ascended ones like on the planet at this time, right? Like we are doing it together. Like this is a different thing. This is a different thing than like before when there was Buddha, you know, and then there was Jesus and everybody flocked around and they got like the way, right? Like, no, we're doing it all together. We all get to walk those vulnerable steps together through the mud, together to find out how to do it. We get to do that. That's a privilege, I feel like. It's a privilege to do it.
Well, actually, we will say it's the same way it always was. It's just been written falsely. Okay. So as people of higher consciousness lead people to their journey of consciousness, that has always been the way. But it has been written that these people or figures reach out and save you in some way. So they create a laziness. So
let's talk about the saving, because that's saving part. Like that's at the pizza delivery. You know, like you're not gonna, there is no like saving, like people calling on Jesus. I love Jesus, a wonderful healer. And I call on him all the time, you know, to help, you know, but I'm still doing the work.
Right. But that's always been the message that got distorted, because those that control don't want you empowered. They want to keep you waiting to get empowered. Okay? Then they can control you in the meantime. So the process has been consistent in its application. It's just that since you can't remember generally all of those hundreds of thousands or possibly millions of lives that you've had and gone through those processes, you rely on the writings and the depictions of others as to how processes were done. And that seems like there's a differentiation. But it has always been your journey, always. And those of us that come to help you remember who you are, we do not want to fix you. We don't want the responsibility of that.
No, it's too much.
We have enough of our own journey.
A lot of fixing going on. Well,
right.
I mean, and let's not even fix it. Let's just embrace it, understand it, right?
Right.
Yeah, I remember very early on when we started this, Julius gave me an analogy that has always stuck in my mind. And he said, they said to me, just go and turn the light on in the room. That's all you have to do. Just go in the room and flip the light on. And you'll be good. If that's what you end up doing the rest of your life, is just walking around into people's rooms and just turning the light on. Because some people will get up and go flip the light off because it's too bright. It's too much for them. Some will go out, open the door, and go out and see what's going on outside. There will be those that just roll over and cover their heads up because they don't want to be bothered. And, you know, if you go right on down that whole list of what people do when it's dark and you feel like there's nothing that can be done in your life, and then there's that little light that comes in, what's your reaction to that light? And that has just always stuck with me, that they were absolutely right. All we can do as light workers is turn the light on for everybody else, because it's everybody else's responsibility to go follow that light. It's not mine.
I love that you're saying that because they told me I'm a door opener. Same thing. I just opened the door. Yeah. They can be like, I don't want that door. You know, like they could be like, forget that door. And I'd be like, it's so cool on the other side of that door. I can encourage a little. You know, but really, it's an invitation, right? The light is an invitation, the door, however you want to conceive of it.
However you want to look at it. Yeah.
It's an invitation, and you can choose it or not. But yeah, you're sovereign. Every one of us is sovereign. We do it or not.
Right. Right. And so when your listeners are deciphering this journey for themselves, and they must be because they're listening, and they are on this journey, and the journey sometimes feels like you're stepping on pebbles under rushing water with a little bit of algae, slicked on the top, and you're trying to navigate your way, okay? And then pretty soon they start to connect, and it starts to become more cemented, and more stabilized for you, okay? And they're called upon this knowing for their own selves. And we keep encouraging them to take every article of the sweetest flavoring on that journey and know that there's more, and know that there's more as the algae dries up, as the water slows down, as the rocks come up above the water, and then everything stabilizes itself. And you can run instead of, teetering and falling in the water. Pretty soon you are unleashed. You are unleashed. And never forget to turn back around and help the other person across the creek if they want. Just outreaching the hand. Just outreaching the hand. That's it. Either they're going to withdraw their hand and be, no. Either I don't want to go across the water, or I can do it myself. And you're like, that's fine. I'll just keep my hand over here if you need it. But it's knowing also that other person is you. Okay? Because we are all one in an unlimited version of perspective of ourselves and thought. And so you would hopefully treat yourself with love and kindness and respect and honor and nurturing, and to always be remembering that aspect of it as well.
And always letting your other friends that are also you have that magical unfolding that you got.
Right.
Yeah.
Like you got that, and it was so great, right? Like the little mysteries and the synchronicities and the awarenesses and the, wow, I didn't know I was this, and all of that stuff that happens. It's so cool to gift that.
Right.
By not giving away all the answers.
Right.
That's the other piece. Like, because we know stuff, don't we?
Right.
We know stuff. And we got to let some people find it for the, good question asking. I think that's good.
Yeah. Yeah. And demonstration. Demonstration is the biggest teacher. It just is. People will want to know why you're so happy. How does everything work for you? How do you have such a good relationship? How do you have such abundant health? How do you have seemingly no issues in your life? How do you do it? So, and how do you have such love for everybody and such compassion for everybody and such patience for everybody? So it's the demonstrating of what you have remembered on your journey that also becomes the quiet yet most powerful inspiration for everyone else.
And that is the message I got at retreat about how to be with, like my mother, who's one of the most challenging relationships for me, is be the demonstration of love. And I think as a light worker, what I experienced coming into this plane was like this sort of feeling like this isn't the way it's supposed to be, like this feeling like that's not loving, or that isn't, like this sense of like, that's not what vibration it needs to be. And then being judgmental about it. Like, well, how come you're not like,
right. Right.
But then I realized like I had this total about face this week where I was like, wait a second. If you're a way shower, you have to show the way.
Yeah.
And you have to you're in love. Don't keep someone out of love that wants to get there. Right. Everybody, who doesn't want to be in there? Everybody wants to be in there. They just don't know how.
It also keeps you mindful. You're constantly, we tell everybody a conscious journey can seem exhausting because what that means is you're aware of your thoughts all the time. You're choosing your thoughts. You're choosing your emotion. You're applicable every moment of the day, every nanosecond of the day as you become a high consciousness being. And other people will say, well, it's just way too much work. And we're like, more work than cleaning up the shit show that you created by being asleep? And
that was way more work.
That's the resistance that'll come out.
Yeah.
Oh, I just can't do that. I can't do that. And we say, be careful of your words because you're always right.
Yeah,
So
talk about that. Because the way I describe that is grandmother spider.
Yeah.
Spider energy is super powerful, and you can hoist yourself up in a big problem if you do that. So you got to be careful with the words, like loving words, gentle words, kind words.
Yeah.
The story you tell about yourself, like the story you tell, like, this is who I am, blah, 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 I am, da, 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 I am. What do you, be careful what you put after I am. That's,
Yeah. And of course, it's the feeling that is behind that word. Words are extremely limiting, but humans also become automated in the way they feel. Mm-hmm. Their feelings are very familiar to them. They're old feelings. They do them all the time. And again, they're very asleep when it comes to the feelings that they choose or the emotions that they choose. This becomes the energy behind your thoughts or the rocket fuel behind your thoughts.
Isn't that because the energy is trapped in the body? Isn't that because it's emotional energy that's sort of wanting to come out, but it's trapped in there in the tissues and it's got to come out?
It's mostly about judging your emotions.
About judging it, because the judgment seals it off. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's not that it's necessarily trapped inside your body. You are the conductor of the energy. In other words, you announce to the universe that you want this to happen in your life. And because you're the conductor, whatever you're announcing to the universe is then delivering that to you, and it either can't come in or it comes in based upon your judgment.
Yeah, judgment becomes the block.
Okay, and judgment is the block. Yeah. It's the one that either puts that little film over the outside of your front. Yeah,
the set, and that's what our workshops are about. So our factoring workshops that Julius puts everybody through is to push through all of the.
We clean out the crud.
Yeah, the judgment of thought. But humans just do that. They're just, and again, they just get so automated with themselves. We are gotten so lazy. We're so lazy when it comes to our own accountability of our consciousness. We may not necessarily be lazy. Somebody could say, oh, they're a very active person. They get up at 6 a.m. and they go to the gym and then they go to work. They're not, they may not be physically lazy in comparison to what human beings would categorize.
Well, I think we just haven't been taught how to bridge into consciousness from the current teachings that are available, which are widespread and which promote being saved.
Mm-hmm. Right, which means that they're keeping you disempowered.
Yeah, because it's convenient that way if everyone's so busy with their busy little chaotic lives of minutia.
Right.
That they can't actually do anything really big with their lives because they don't have the energy anymore. And the passion gets drained out. And so that's why it's important for this. If you're feeling that way, let's just say right now, honest assessment. If you're feeling in your body, listeners, like, hey, I'm not lit up when I get up in the morning. Like, do you get out of bed in the morning and go, yeah. Do you get up and go, oh my God, I get to do this again today. This is so great.
Right.
Or do you get up and go,
oh God, I gotta go do this.
Like, what's the energy? Just be honest. And I'm not saying that on this path there aren't moments of that, because I still have moments of that. It's normal.
No, that's being human.
That's being human. But you can get more, and right, guys, like you can get more and more and more where you wake up and the opportunity is there to go, oh wow. Like this morning, I woke up, I was dancing in front of the mirror. I was like, yeah, just dance, just happy. And I'm just happy. And I'm allowing that to be. Another day I might, like earlier, when we opened Sacred Space before the call, I had like this emotion come up and I was like, oh, and I cried a little bit. And I let that happen too.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It is happening. I'm not lying about it anymore. I think that's the key. It's like, it is happening. Can you just be with it? It is so. Yeah. And so be with it without judgment while it is so, and then it transforms, it dissolves, it goes somewhere else, and now you have a new experience.
Yeah. And a lot of people will try to excuse that away and say that they've just got so many responsibilities in their life. They're overwhelming. We're like, you created the responsibilities. You absolutely created the responsibilities. Okay. You chose the job. You chose to have children. You chose to have animals. You chose to have the debt. You chose all of that. That's great news. That's great. That's the best news we could tell you.
Yeah, that shows how powerful
that
you
was
are.
Being chosen by somebody else, you would be eternally a victim. But this gets you back into your centered self, and you can change anything that you create, which basically means you can change everything because you've created everything in your life. At first, people get really pissed off when we tell them that because they get defensive.
Yeah,
they really love being
because they don't want to be judged, and they judge themselves. I got to tell you, I had an experience of my self-judgment. I put myself into situations and retreats and things where everything slows down enough that I can really witness my consciousness in its operation. And I did that this past week, and I had a moment of self-judgment because I did something out of turn with the proceedings that we were doing. I did something a little out of turn, and it wasn't even a big deal. It was a beautiful thing, and people appreciated it. But I went back to my awareness, and I sat there and I went, I just did that out of turn. And then the whole thing started inside of me in the judgment, of doing it out of turn, and oh no. And then they snickered at me. And then, like they're making fun or this, and all of it kicked up the dust, and the whole thing was a whirlwind. And I was just sitting there witnessing and going, wow, that is really painful. And I allowed myself to feel what probably happens all the time, but I'm not aware of it because I'm, in my run-a-day world or whatever, and I'm not aware of it. I really sat with it and I witnessed it, and I made a choice. No more. I will not treat myself that way again. And I think that if more of us really could put ourselves in maybe some this consciousness path is about that. It's about putting yourself in expanded situations where you don't know what's going to happen next, and you get triggered, and you can see beyond, you can peel back the little layer and go, oh, yeah, this is happening inside me.
Well, your conscious journey has to start. It starts with your self-awareness.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how aware you are of everybody else.
No.
That doesn't matter.
Because that could be total projection.
Love to be aware of everybody else. Oh, I know exactly who you are. What? But it's really scary stuff to look at you. And that's where it starts. So it doesn't matter. It's not that it doesn't matter, but it doesn't serve your conscious journey for you to be able to see everything out here until you first see it in here.
Because guess what, folks? If you're not clear in you, you're probably not seeing what you think you're seeing in someone else.
Right.
You probably you're so convinced of it. You're so righteous.
And have you ever noticed, I know I'm probably going to get in trouble for saying this.
That's okay.
No, because this is something that goes on all the time that parallels this line of conversation. Have you ever noticed that there's practitioners out there in the world that can fix other people?
Mm-hmm.
They think they can fix other people.
They think they can.
Their own life
is a train wreck.
Is an absolute train wreck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you just I sit there and are you kidding me? Wow. Your life is an absolute mess. And yet you've got all these people coming to you to get advice from you, and you're giving them advice how to fix themselves or fix this problem and fix this problem. And yet you can't even solve that problem in your own life. Yeah. Have you ever noticed that?
But that's the alter ego. See, now that's the quintessential unhealed healer, okay? That is, putting themselves out. They're trying to just make a living. But that's exactly the alter ego.
And don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong, or don't attack me because I said that, please. What I'm saying is, as a gifted person who's a practitioner, you need to look at yourself in the mirror and know who you are before you decide to go help others, because you're not going to be able to help others if you can't help yourself.
You have to be on your conscious journey as well. You have to find balance. If we are light workers and we are people to help other people remember, we have to constantly be working on our own remembrance too. And you have to find a balance there. You can't
you have to keep doing the work. Like, definitely, you have to do the work. And I want to also back up on that a little bit. And I want to say, from my experience, that what Spirit gifted me through my training was an opportunity to be in service, be in service for others while receiving messages for them that also totally applied to me.
Right.
And that, I think, if you can hold that awareness when you're doing it and hold that energy, like, I am in process. I am gifted. I am meant to do this work. I am a healer, and I am in process. And I don't have all the answers. It's not coming from me. The Great Spirit, however you want it, God, Creator, is flowing through both of us and bringing us together, because we both need this nugget of wisdom that's about to come out in your healing. And all you're paying for with me is my time to be here holding your hand through this process, because it's not either one of us, it's like happening. And if you can hold that, then look, what a beautiful gift you get. If you can realize that it also pertains to you, like it is about you too, because it got brought to you.
Right.
That is where you do your work. And I think that's how you hold integrity. That's at least how I hold integrity with the work that I do. Because I know I'm not like, there is no top of the mountain. I ain't fixed, people. Like, this is not a top of the mountain situation where I'm oming all day long, like, all my shit sorted out. Like, now I got to figure it out, and I can just kick back and help all you people that are coming up. That like creates separation. It creates hierarchy. It creates all kinds of nonsense. So I think that really, like, what we can do is just embrace the fact that all of us are on the road together. And some of us are a few steps ahead in one area or another, and and we can all help each other to get together collectively. To the higher place, right?
And if you understand we're all one theory, just that theory, then yes.
Yeah.
Each one of us is at a different level in our progression, no matter what we're doing, and it's my responsibility to bring the next person along.
To bring myself and then whoever God is putting in front of you to help, just know that's also for you. That's the only key. That is also for you. You are not exempt. You don't have the playbook. Like, you're missing something. Otherwise, that person wouldn't be right here for you, right? Like, we're all learning from each other. Anyway, it triggers the ego to say that shit, Especially because I'm called, like, I get so called up on my ego. It's like, I don't want to say this. I don't want to do this because I'm the expert.
Are you afraid you're going to hurt somebody's feelings?
I don't know if I'm afraid I'm going to hurt somebody's feelings, but I think that I really feel like my inner child, my ego, whatever, like, wants to help so much. Really, and I think so many of us that are in this line of work, there's just like this deep heart center space of like, I know something. I know this vibration of love. I know this truth. I know this is what it is, and I want it to be. And I want to help make that for others and for myself. I want that. It's just a really authentic little thing. And it's not so little. It's an authentic big thing. But then we put all this other, the other stuff like hooks in there, and then it goes off the rails, Yep. So we got to just not judge.
The alter ego.
Exactly what you said. Then it hooks in there. It's like, I'm going on that train. I'm going to take credit for the healing. I'm going to say it's me. I'm going to pretend like I have it all figured out even to myself. That's where you got to keep pushing. Like I told you guys, that retreat I did this week was painful. Like, honestly, it was painful on multiple levels. But at the end of it, I was like, I don't think I'm going to do it anymore. But I knew that was my the gritty aspects are my ego getting, sort of like loofah'd. And that's okay. And then I'll be back at it. I was already an hour later. I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to go. Of course I'm going to go to the next thing. Of course I am. What else is there to do? We're here to do this.
Yeah.
So tell a little bit about the work that people can do with you guys, because it's pretty massive and important.
Thank you. Our biggest thing is our R Factoring workshop here at our facility here at Wing Chun Farms.
You think that's the biggest?
It's the biggest as far as your intensified experience. It's a 3-day hands-on experience here at the facility with Julius. To work on those energy grids, both inside and out. We have phase 1 and phase 2. You can read about that and learn about that on the website, expandwithjulius.com. But we do lectures, we do classes, we do private work, we do public work. We have television shows. We have a near-death experience show on Mandalia Television on Wednesday mornings, where Julius helps to provide insight for people who've had near-death experiences and helps answer some of the questions with that. That's really fun and super cool.
The R Factoring program is not that old for us, okay? A year ago, during the eclipse. Would you like to explain that?
It just opened up this. Our students had been asking Julius for a healing workshop, some type of applicable workshop. We do monthly courses with everybody. Julius takes everybody on their conscious journey through just this ongoing courses and lectures. And
we are constantly and always doing something.
And so our students kept asking for a retreat, a tangible workshop, from Julius, and they put them off for quite a while, actually. And said they were kind of prepping everybody for that. So about a year ago, I went through about a 9-day download process and got this program. And so we started initiating it about a year ago. It's about a year old now. There's now phase 1 and phase 2. We were inspired to build our own little retreat facility here on our property, which was nuts. So we did that. And we just keep going. The people are coming. They're inspired. It's mowing and it's joeing. We've had the opportunity, of course, to have these wonderful programs and discussions with people like you, Kerri. Thank you very much for that. And, continue to outreach all over the world. You can have private readings with Julius if that's what you'd like. But everything's on the website, expandwithjulius.com.
That is so great. And we talked about having me come out there and do a workshop.
Yes.
And I talked to some of my clients about it, and they like it. So
yes, March. Okay.
Is that the best time?
Well,
we're projecting. Yeah, we're
doing the Conscious Life Expo, as you know, in February in LA. We're key speakers there. We've got 3 lectures and stuff going on there. And that's where we will be promoting to bring in for the next workshop in March. So we're doing phase 1 and phase 2 in March. And it's springtime, and it's wonderful time to do all of that. And that's our next, really big leap.
Awesome.
Phase 1 and phase 2 here on the property.
Well, if that excites you guys, and reach out to these wonderful human beings who are facilitating. And I want to say, I don't know, I'm sure that my audience is fairly perceptive in watching this back, but did you guys feel the energy flowing and change? I
was going to open the door here to our studio. I'm like, I am getting so pumped.
It was kind of going through me too. And I was like, this is fun, anyway, I hope you guys really got that was what was going on.
If you think the interview has a lot of energy, you need to be at one of the retreats.
Yeah. That was great, man.
Yeah.
So I hope you all enjoyed that and got some healing from that. I certainly did. Thank you, Julius. And thank you, Kasey and Brad. So on the way out, I always like to give kisses. So you guys are welcome to join me in giving kisses to everybody. So here they come, everybody.
Love it.
Thanks for coming out. I love you guys. And I'll see you guys next time on Soul Nectar Show. Enjoy your day. Bye.